You know, when you look at the conflict between the United States and Iran, it's easy to just see chaos, right? A bunch of disconnected headlines and religious fanaticism. But what if it isn't chaos at all? Today, we're going to unpack a really specific geopolitical analysis that argues Iran isn't just reacting. It's been running a meticulous, decades-long playbook. And to get it, well, first we have to kind of question the nature of reality itself. Okay, so let's just dive right into this. The analysis we're exploring today kicks off with this really powerful, almost jarring idea that our world, it's a collective fantasy. And that's not just some cool-sounding metaphor. According to this view, it's the fundamental premise you have to grasp to understand how global power really works. So the whole idea here is based on Plato's allegory of the cave. The story goes, we're all basically prisoners chained up, staring at shadows flickering on a wall, and we believe those shadows are real. This analysis argues that our global system works exactly the same way. It's a constructed reality built for one main purpose: to capture our attention and our consciousness in a way that generates wealth for very select few. Okay, so if the world is just a constructed game, some kind of collective hallucination, you gotta ask, right? Who built this thing? And who's making sure we all keep playing by the rules? Well, according to this model, the first major player is what it calls the American Empire, and it's defined here mainly as a military force. Their job isn't so much to manage the world, but to be the muscle, the enforcer that creates and maintains this reality, the thing that keeps us all chained and looking at the shadows on the wall. But the empire doesn't actually write the rules of the game. That rule, this analysis states, belongs to the global financial order. These are the game masters. They're the ones who build the incredibly complex system of rules and incentives that we all live in, the thing we just call the global economy. And this order, it's got a really clear structure. At the very top, you've got the Bank for International Settlements. It's like the central bank for all the other central banks. Just below that, you have the IMF and the World Bank, who set the rules. And then under them, you have the national central banks, like the Fed. They all work together to manage the game. So what powers this whole game? It's called the Petro-Dollar system, and the core idea is actually pretty simple. Oil, the most important commodity in the world, is priced and sold only in US dollars. This means every country on Earth has to constantly buy US dollars just to get energy. And where do those dollars go? They get funneled right back into the US, creating this massive engine that runs the entire global machine. All right, so that brings us to Iran. I mean, if this system is so huge and so powerful, how could a country that's been under sanctions for over 40 years even think about challenging it? Well, the answer, according to this analysis, isn't to fight the empire head-on. It's to attack the game itself. And look, this is not a chaotic or random strategy. This analysis makes it super clear. We're talking about a specific 5-step plan that's been carefully built over 45 years. And it has one single goal: find the system's weakest point and watch the whole house of cards come tumbling down. So here it is, the 5 steps of the playbook. First, build a network of proxies. Second, hold that nuclear threshold. Keep everyone guessing. Third, control critical energy choke points. Fourth, weaken the US dollar. And fifth, create a decentralized defense. Now, each one is a piece of the puzzle, but to really see the whole strategy in action, let's just zoom in on step 3 because it shows perfectly how Iran attacks the system's weakest link. What is this 20%? Well, that's the percentage of the entire world's daily oil supply. We're talking about 20 million barrels a day that flows through one single tiny waterway, the Strait of Hormuz. And this is where you really see the vulnerability. At its absolute narrowest point, the Strait of Hormuz is just 33 kilometers wide. That's it. It's a sliver of water that people have literally swum across. And Iran sits right on its northern shore, like a mountain fortress overlooking the world's energy artery. Okay, and this is where the strategy gets really clever. Take a look at who gets hurt if that choke point closes down. It's not really the United States. It's America's most important trading partners: China, India, and Japan. The analysis argues that by controlling the strait, Iran doesn't have to threaten America directly. It can threaten the economies of everyone America depends on. So yeah, it's a clever strategy, but it brings up a way bigger question. How could a global empire that seems invincible even be vulnerable to a plan like this to begin with? I mean, why do all empires eventually fall? The theory behind this, what the source points to, is something called the Law of Asymmetry. The basic idea is that when a massive power fights a smaller, weaker one, the fight is unequal, but a lot of the time the advantage actually goes to the underdog. The very things that make an empire strong can, over time, become its greatest weaknesses. Just take a look at this comparison here. A big, successful empire, it can get arrogant, right? Blind. The source calls it hubris. Its massive bureaucracy leads to all this infighting and factionalism, and its people can get complacent. But a challenger? A challenger is driven by raw energy. It's unified by a common cause, and it has to be open to learning and adapting because its very survival depends on it. And this is where the analysis gets really counterintuitive. It argues that America's strategies against Iran actually help them. By attacking, the U.S. basically gives them a common enemy that unifies a divided Iranian society. By targeting and killing their leaders, it solves Iran's internal problem of having too many elites fighting for power. And by supporting rival groups, it just galvanizes this powerful sense of Persian nationalism. The empire's moves, ironically, just make the challengers stronger. So let's bring this all together and zoom back out. Because if you really follow this analysis to its logical end, this conflict isn't just about oil or territory or even geopolitics. It's about something way, way deeper. See, the source is saying Iran can't and won't take on the American empire head-on. Instead, it attacks the global economy. That's the weak point in the system. Because if the economy collapses, the entire structure, that collective fantasy we're all living in, it all comes down with it. It's a fight for the very nature of our reality. So, in the end, this is how the analysis frames the stakes. The real currency in the world isn't money. It's human consciousness and our attention. Because it is our collective belief, our consciousness, that creates and holds up the hallucination of our world. So this isn't just some regional conflict. According to this view, it's a war for the soul of humanity. Which leaves us with one final, pretty unsettling question. If the world truly is a stage, and all of us are just players in a game designed to capture our attention, who is writing the script?